Python is popular because of its procedure-oriented and object-oriented programming language. Python was developed by borrowing features from scripting language features from Perl and shell script. That is, we can execute a bunch of independent statements one by one in case of scripting language. For example, Perl, shell scripting, etc. So if you notice in this example, we are executing a bunch of statements one by one, and Python was developed by borrowing features from functional or procedure-oriented programming features from C language. So in case of procedure-oriented or functional programming language, we write a function and call that function based on your requirement. In this example, we are writing a function called function1 and calling this function. So this is called functional or procedure-oriented programming feature. And Python was developed by borrowing features from object-oriented programming features from C++. So that is, in case of object-oriented programming, we write a class, and within the class we write a method, and we create an object of that class and call the method using that object reference. So this is object-oriented programming feature. And Python was also developed by borrowing features from modular programming features from Modula 3, but this is outdated. So most of the Python syntax was borrowed from C and ABC languages. ABC is outdated. It was 1989 programming language. And in case of Java, we cannot assign a function to a variable, and it is not possible in Java, but they are adding procedure oriented features like functional interfaces, lambda expressions, etc. to support this. And we have to write everything inside a class in case of Java. So we have the concepts of inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, etc. Whereas in C programming language, it follows POP, procedure oriented programming, or functional oriented, and there is no concept of OOPS in case of C. Whereas in case of Python, it supports both procedure oriented programming and also object oriented programming. So most of the scripting languages are being replaced by Python because of its extensive library support. So once we install Linux, Python is available by default. It is a built-in software in Linux. So people are trying to replace shell scripting with Python. And Python can be used to develop desktop applications, and also it can be used to develop web-based applications. For example, in case of Java, we have JSP, servlets, etc. And let's assume it takes 15 days to build the application. Whereas in case of Python, we have a framework called Django, and that can be used to develop the same application in 3 to 4 days. That is, 10% of the code will be written by us and 90% of the code will be taken care by Django framework itself. So we have different web-based frameworks like Django, Flask, that is another alternative to Django, and Pyramid, which is another alternative to Flask. And Django, Flask, and Pyramid, these are different web-based frameworks to develop web-based applications. So that's the reason Python is an all-rounder programming language, and it is both procedure-oriented as well as object-oriented programming language. Alright, see you in the next video.